morning, colleagues. It's now 8 o'clock, so we can go ahead and call this Committee on Appointments to order. Nice to see you all. All right, we have three items for approval today. The first is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Daniel Korndike to the Local Officers Compensation Commission. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, so it's been moved and supported. Just a reminder, colleagues, this LOCC, excuse me, the term is for 7 years. You can only serve once on this body. And I think Mr. Korndike will serve as a good member as a previously elected county commissioner. Any other comments?
Yeah, just also, we try to mix up political affiliations and various things too, so you have different voices on there. And he's going to be taking Jerry Koyman's spot, who's a former representative,
Yeah.
state representative. So.
Makes sense.
Thanks for sharing that, City Clerk. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that carries. Thank you. Number 2 is a resolution approving the City Commission's appointment of Tom Simmons to the Historic Preservation Commission. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
This has been moved and supported. Mr. Kwame, is this this is a reappointment?
This is not a
This is a new
reappointment.
appointment.
This is a new appointment,
All right.
correct?
And this is filling the opening, we had an opening. Is there still one opening on this body then after this appointment?
I believe that's correct. There was
Okay.
a gentleman that moved out of state, to
Yes,
my
okay.
understanding.
Yeah.
So colleagues, yes, I think there was 2 on there. And then the, excuse me, the last item is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Martin Uchendu, and I hope I'm saying that right, to the Economic Development Corporation and Brownfield Redevelopment Authority.
Did we?
We got to vote on the
Tom?
first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, colleagues. You're so
It's not
nice.
just me this morning.
Okay, so number 2 has been moved and supported, just for a point of order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that carries. Thank you. Number 3 is a resolution confirming Mayor Bliss's appointment of Martin Uchendu to the Economic Development Corporation and Brownfield Redevelopment Authority.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Mr. Uchendu did meet with Mayor Bliss. This is filling the last opening that we do have on Economic and Brownfield, which Commissioner Moody and I serve on. And that will be great to kind of have round out that board. All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries. Thank you. So that concludes our business for today, colleagues. We can go to our discussion of our current board and vacancy list. I do want to, actually, before we go kind of into each one, talk about our year-end appointment process, Daniel. I know, actually, I think shortly after the primary, the clerk's office did send out, AKAU sent out the applications to individuals to complete their PIFs so that they could be reconsidered, either for, we have a number of people who, we do have some year-to-year appointments like public safety, but we also have other appointments where people just could be on that cycle of maybe a three-year appointment, or like the LOC, a 7-year appointment. I think the LOC after this will have one person rolling off after this calendar year? Or is that now
No.
board full?
No, we have one, sorry. For the LOCC, that was a full term. We still have a partial term
Got it, okay,
that we have to take care of, but they roll off at September 30th.
got it,
So-
okay,
So this took effect like October 1.
okay.
So we do have one partial term though left.
Okay, thank you. So with that being said, Daniel, have those, completion of those PIFs been happening? Do we need to do another push? I just want to make sure that, we can either vote on those individuals that need to be reappointed, and we only have 2 meetings left after this, so.
Yes, we are receiving PIFs from the members that need to reapply. As of now, there are 42 applicants that are reapplying.
Okay.
I'll have to look into how many still need to submit, but I feel as if that's a fairly substantial number of the appointments.
Okay. And I think probably like many years, we usually typically try to put a priority on any of the mayoral appointments, just because the mayor has so much more than, I would say, the whole body and/or like the city manager. I think there's probably less of that. So it typically, it's kind of a numbers game. It's like how it flows down. And And so if we can make sure, if there's any updates to that or anybody who is not going to reapply, that we can share that with Mayor Bliss so she has that information as well. Okay, and if we can go through these, and I think also the other thing to note, as I'm holding both happiness and sadness about a couple weeks ago election, there is a reality of the business at hand for the city commission. So we will have some new commissioners, and so we will need to consider that also in the appointments process. I know in the past, outgoing, incoming commissioners have worked together for that. And I haven't spoken in detail to any of the new commissioners, but I think I want to put that out there and just say that on the record too. And I know that will probably be part of the orientation process that is going to happen. So,
Will you repeat what you're saying?
yes, so.
Down there, but I can't hear you.
No, sure. Is that since we'll have 3 new commissioners, there may be some openings here right now where, say, maybe one of our outgoing commissioners might say, I'm going to wait on that and have the incoming commissioner fulfill that. I might not have somebody who's interested in that at this time, and try to work together to identify, who will actually do that appointment. Will it be done by the end of the year, or is it something that we're going to wait for calendar year? And I think in the past, it's probably been a mix where maybe some people were seated because maybe they're in the queue. Like right now, actually, I'm working with the mayor on somebody who would like to serve on planning commission. So, and just going through that process of meeting with them and talking to Kristen. Part of me says with civil service, maybe I'll ask one of the new commissioners to help identify, just because that one has been a little bit ongoing. So, just a recognition that I want to make sure that not all of the appointments might get done by the end of the year. So my long way of saying that. And any other feedback that you all have around that, but. Okay. So I think most of the updates that I have I mentioned that about planning commission. I do think like our corridor improvement authorities, that would probably be a good one to talk with our, the new colleagues that will come on. This did one, it's getting shorter, so I'm glad about that.
Yep.
But those are all people who are needing to get reappointed. And then if you want to continue scrolling, we just did the Historic Preservation Commission, so remember that's different than the Historical Commission. So that's kind of confusing sometimes. We just did LLC, so this says remainder of a 7-year term, but then we had another opening. So this is correct with the remainder of a 7-year term?
That's correct.
Okay. And then probably the biggest one, like I look at public safety just because that's a year-over-year term. And I know we were waiting on a PIF. I know a few of the appointments are not going to continue, so.
Right, yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, should I knock that out before I'm done or offer that opportunity to Drew?
So, yeah, I think that's not a robust update today, colleagues, but we did have a number of ones that we did appoint, which I'm glad, especially Brownfield. We did receive the update, if you remember, from last meeting about Vital Streets, which will come back to us. And,
I think it comes back to us
yeah, today, yep, that'll be in Cow. And so I think my biggest thing right now is to make sure that we can get all those year-end appointments done. Those that we know are going to serve, we'd like them to continue to serve. I don't know when the next liaison meeting will be, but I think one of the things that's been a little difficult to manage is once people are appointed, what does their attendance look like? There are some boards that have very explicit language around the bylaws. So one of them I think about that is like our Housing Appeals Board. It has a pretty clear bylaw about when you can no longer serve due to attendance missed, but others are not. And even though it might not explicitly say that, I think the goal of this is to always make sure the board is as full as it can be so that the work can happen. So our city staff are not preparing for meetings and then agenda items can't be completed. So I will say in 2023, that will be a priority of mine, to check in with all of our liaisons and to really evaluate what that attendance looks like for all of our board members. Because I recognize that things change. Some boards are much more involved than others, but I want to make sure that we are able to always complete our agenda items and that staff time is valuable and we can move forward with those agenda pieces, so.
Yeah.
That's my soapbox. So my request there is to let us know at the next meeting when we are planned to meet as with liaisons. What does that look like? And I would suggest maybe that's something we do in that first quarter of the year. Okay. Colleagues, any other updates about any of these, any of the bodies? All right. Hearing none, and then, one other thing. So the special meeting, do we think that we need that special meeting? Is it too late to have a special meeting?
I don't believe it's too late.
Okay.
I think we have a good amount of those who are reapplying
Okay.
submitted.
Okay,
The vacancies could potentially be a topic of discussion, but
Okay.
there aren't very many of those that have
Okay.
garnered any interest from folks, so.
okay, yes. So I think if we do need, if you want to go back, Daniel, and look at how many of those, you said 42, right, that have applied, but that might not be all the openings, right, or the reappointments?
Correct.
Yeah. And so I don't know if that's a good number, if that's a bad number yet. But
a
you're
fairly
thinking it's a pretty good number, right? Okay.
Correct.
You did say that. So let me correct the record that you did say you feel like they've been coming in. So we probably are going to be able to add those to the first meeting of December, at the very least, the last meeting of December.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to prepare the colleagues so that we were thinking about doing a special meeting on November 29th, which we did last year, but I don't think we need to.
I mean, we can extend to 8:30 at any time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, you have a little
No?
bit, you have a timing issue too. So our meeting is December 6th. Our second meeting is the next week, December
Right, it's the
13th.
next week.
So things that have to be on the agenda have to be for the 13th, have to be on before we have our meeting
Do
on the
the-
6th. The back-to-back meetings get a little
Yeah.
wonky with agenda approval.
You just made me just scared because I looked at the calendar. So I think if we could identify what those are, just so we know what we have. So it sounds like we're a back-to-back, to your point, City Clerk, is not going to really best serve us, but to just make sure that we can get as much in for the 6th and the 13th. Is that fair? In terms of the reappointments?
Yeah, I think that will work. And then, obviously, we don't know who, new members of this board, of this subcommittee and other subcommittees. So if there is work
Yes.
to do at the beginning of the year, then we hit the new year running, I guess, for anything else that's outstanding.
Okay, great. Yes, I think we have a little bit of transition that we need to think about, and be realistic about that at the end of the year, and also keep the work of this committee going. So, all right, colleagues, well, thank you so much. We can go ahead and adjourn at 8:14. See you at
been between like 80 and 90.
All right. Good morning, colleagues. It is now 8:30, and we can go ahead and call our fiscal committee meeting to order. Thank you, Mayor, for sitting in today. And we have just a couple of items today on our agenda. So the first is a resolution authorizing advertisement with the Grand Rapids Griffins for $28,000 on behalf of Mobile GR. Do you have a motion?
Oh, support.
It's been moved and supported.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm personally super excited to be able to present this item for your approval this morning because I have been asking about this availability for many years now with the Grand Rapids Griffins. So last month, you approved an agreement between Mobile GR and the Grand Rapids Griffins for some marketing and promotional opportunities during the current season. Since that time, the opportunity to wrap the Zamboni has become available, and our vision is to have it mirror a dash bus, which will not only be beneficial in promoting the service, but will also be a good opportunity to communicate about the proposed route changes, which were presented during the last committee of the whole meeting. So the contract term begins in January of the current season and will also include all of next year's season.
Thank you, Ms. Casper. Colleagues, any questions?
You know, I just have a question. Now with the Gold playing at the Van Andel, is there an opportunity to do something during their games as well?
Potentially, we
They
had
don't have a
already.
Zamboni, but.
Right, not a Zamboni. We haven't had contacts previously with their promotions people before since they weren't inside city limits.
Yeah.
So now that they are, we can try to make those contacts so that we can continue this type of promotional stuff with them.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I was downtown several nights last week, including the night that they had their first game, and the lines were all the way around the Van Andel, and lots of people trying to figure out how to park. And so I think it's an opportunity to let people know that there's lots of mobility options downtown as well.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, they operate as different organizations, and the Van Andel Arena itself is also separate. So we had in the past also done some advertising inside the Van Andel specifically, so it was agnostic to any team or concert. So we'll continue to explore those opportunities.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll add, I've gotten a lot of comments about the Dash 3.0 presentation that we had last week, so glad to hear that this will be a connection point to that and encourage people to see about the services we have in the city. All right, hearing no other questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That carries, thank you. Our next item is a resolution authorizing $33,101.93 payment to the 2023 Community Public Water Supply annual fee to the state of Michigan. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Good morning.
Good morning, Fiscal Committee. This is our annual payment for Eagle to regulate us. It's based on population. There was one last year, similar time, a few $100s less, so population's gone up, so it's a little bit more this year, but just for Eagle to regulate us.
All right, so standard item. Colleagues, do you have any questions on this item?
None for me.
No, just a highlight that I'm glad it monitors the quality of the drinking water. And as we all know, it'd be nice to make sure that we're continuing to get the word out about the quality of our water. So,
Thank you, Mayor. I agree. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Okay, that carries. Thank you so much. Next is ordinance amending Section 1 of the Budget Ordinance 2022-13 for fiscal year 2023, Amendment Number 7. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Ms. Claren?
Good morning, Commissioners. Our first item this morning is the Bureau of Justice Assistance Grant out of the Police Department. I believe this is related to purchases of reimbursement for purchases of armored vests. This would be for $9,766.60 in revenue and appropriations in the Police Grants Fund. No effect on fund balance. Second item is from the Economic Development Department. This is the Michigan Department of Environmental, Great Lakes and Energy, or EAGLE grant. The amount appropriated would be $1 million and for revenue and $970,000 appropriations of the Brownfield Fund with a corresponding increase of $30,000 in fund balance. Number 3, from the Engineering Services Department, Vital Streets, this is just the allocation of additional state funding. It authorizes an increase of just over $1 million in revenue and appropriations for the Streets Capital Projects Fund with no effect on fund balance. It would also further authorize an increase of about $1.5 million in appropriations to the Major Streets Fund with a corresponding decrease in fund balance. Number 4 is for our 61st District Court. This is the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration Grant. This would authorize an increase of $400,000 in revenue appropriations to this District Court Fund with no effect on retained earnings. And number 5 is our Water Career Program Grant Award. This is for $164,409 in revenue and appropriations to our other grants fund with no effect on fund balance. Number 6, Economic Development Department. Again, this is an EAGLE grant, authorizing $430,000 in revenue and $418,000 in appropriations for the Economic Development Corporation Fund with a corresponding increase of $12,000 in fund balance. The number 7, Engineering Department, the Michigan Drinking Water Revolving Fund through the Michigan Finance Authority loans. This would authorize $150,000 in appropriations for the Water Improvement Fund with a corresponding decrease in retained earnings. Number 8, Engineering Department, this is Vital Streets related to the project Eastern Avenue from 44th to 28th Street. It authorizes an increase of just under $1.2 million in revenue and appropriations for the Vital Streets Capital Non-Bund Fund with no effect on fund balance. Number 9, this is related to the East Side Trunk Sewer relocation. Sorry, I'm losing my ability to speak this morning. This would authorize $240,600 revenue appropriations to the Water Improvement Fund with no effect on retained earnings. It also a decrease of $240,000 in revenue and appropriations to the Sewer Improvement Fund with no effect on retained earnings. Number 10, with the Engineering Department, we have another, the Vital Streets. We do this roughly quarterly, just aligning the major and local streets fund. This would authorize an increase of $2.5 million in revenue appropriations to the local streets fund with no effect on fund balance, corresponding with a transfer of $2.5 million in appropriations in the major streets fund with no effect on fund balance. Number 11, Community Development Services Department. This is the Michigan State Housing Development Grant. This is $500,000 in revenue and appropriations to the other grants fund with no effect on fund balance. Number 12, this is the Community Development Services Department Mel Trotter Ministries Storage Program, which I believe we heard about at last meeting. $200,000 from the General Operating Fund with no effect on fund balance, and also an increase of $200,000 in estimated revenue appropriations to the other grants fund with no effect on fund balance. Number 13, this is the reconstruction of Ottawa Avenue, an increase of $305,000 in revenue and appropriations to the Vital Streets Capital Non-Bund Fund with no effect on fund balance. Also an increase of $35,800 in revenue and appropriations to the Water Improvement Fund with no effect on retained earnings. And also authorize an increase of $50,000 of revenue and appropriations to the Sewer Improvement Fund with no effect on fund balance. They like just getting everybody involved in some of these capital projects, so. Okay, and then finally, number 14, from the Treasurer's Department, we're actually going to add a position, an Accountant 1 position, to the permanent roster. You will not see a corresponding appropriation for dollar amount, as our treasurer has managed to find a way to do this where he is offsetting it with going to the outside for our investment managers taking that work in-house. So this is just simply a position add with a corresponding actually savings. And then finally, our contingent balance remains unchanged at $2.5 million.
Thank you, Ms. Claren. You can take a drink of your coffee. And lots in there, many things that, as you mentioned, we have discussed, and so we know that that was going to be in this budget ordinance. And I just want to highlight City Treasurer, thank you for always looking for ways to have a positive impact on our budget, but also never foregoing excellence and increasing efficiency.
Thank you very much. It's really important work for us because as we started this plan back in 2014 when I became treasurer, it was to work with a number of people to work on our investment policy and work with investment managers and to build out the program. And now that we've built out the program, we were at 3 investment managers, we're down to 2. And now we're going to be bringing it in-house. And what that does for us is this account one position builds bench strength for us. So then we have a continuity of service. And that's as we really be thoughtful about any type of succession planning or making sure we have the great resources available for our teams. We're now managing over $500 million. That's a lot of work, a lot of investments, but we're predominantly buy and hold, and we're doing an outstanding job. And our investment analyst, Levi Bolt, is exceptional at what he does with his investments and his thoughtfulness and policy build. I rely on him quite heavily on a number of things, especially when we're looking at how to rewrite policy and how it fits in with SEC rules and regs and how we work with different outside investment brokers and dealers. So this is another step in our growth and development as an organization. So I appreciate your support.
Thank you, and yes, thank you for mentioning Mr. Bolt, who's in the audience. So that's the most comments we've had on a budget ordinance, but colleagues, any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That carries, thank you. And our last item to vote on is our bid list resolution for November 15th, 2022.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. As you know, we've gone from reading every single one and reviewing them. Colleagues, if you have any questions, please, let's ask Ms. Claren, or Ms. Claren, if there's anything that you'd like to highlight, please let us know.
No, there's just 6 items this morning. They're all pretty routine in nature, but myself or staff are here to answer questions if you have them.
All right.
Aye.
Here, did you have one, Commissioner?
No,
Miller?
Ms. Clarence
Oh,
does an excellent job. There's no need to go behind her.
all right, sounds good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries, thank you. So let's move on to our warrant report for October 19th, 2022 through November 1st, 2022. Mr. Comptroller?
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. So for the period reference there, the city released cash payments totaling approximately $31.2 million. That includes $5.4 million for our employee payroll expense and just over $97,000 for income tax warrants during that period. In terms of quantity, we issued 454 income tax refunds and just over 1,200 accounts payable checks during that period. And as always, the tables on the following 4 pages contain the details of all those payments that were greater than $20,000.
All right, thank you, Mr. Comptroller. Colleagues, any additional questions for our City Comptroller? All right, hearing none, that report is received and filed. Thank you. Mr. City Treasurer, we're going to get you on your way. So this is the Treasurer's report for period of October 19th, 2022 through November 1st, 2022.
I thought he gave it already.
After watching the news yesterday, I feel like he's going to give us some updates, so.
What news? With the report today, we just want to point out some of the things that we're seeing. We're looking at interest rate hikes, probably 50 basis points, 25 basis points for the next 3 Fed meetings. That's pretty much where we're starting to hear the consensus market is pricing in, feeling that's where it is. What that means is that we're going to come out to a 5 to 5.25% topping. But again, that's still going to be based on what happens in our micro, macro, and global economic conditions. As we see, some things can happen really, really quickly and change everything quickly. I think one of the things that I've been reading too is just telling signs that they're looking at a recession probably toward the late 2023, September, October, November timeframe. But again, we're talking that in investment and economic horizons, that there could be so many things that could happen at that point in time that changes that view. And that's what's difficult. It's to predict. Mr. Bolt and I have had a conversation where we're talking about some of the Fed comments, and when they're saying their window of kind of a softish type landing, the analogy came up to the movie Apollo 13, where they're trying to guide that spaceship to that little window to get back to Earth. And if it's too steep, it burns up and it's devastating, or you could too shallow and you bounce off and you careen off into outer space. And so that's basically what we're thinking of, is the Fed is trying to navigate that to hit that pinpoint mark. And that's what's hard with economics, period, and trying to guide our economy and all the different inputs and factors that go into it. But we're preparing for those things. So as we continue to reinvest our money, we're investing it out at higher rates, filling the places where we want to have maturities happen. Our portfolio has grown to $533 million, but we're now earning 80 basis points more than what we were at the lowest point. So when we apply that 80 basis points to the money that we have, that's another over $4 million of investment earnings that we're getting in, and that's all going to support all the different departments that have a fund balance, that we're able to invest for them. And so that's the critical nature of this work, and we want to be able to do more of it in-house and have more of an impact on that. And so really that's what we focus on. We focus on how can we be better stewards of our resources that we're given, but then how can we actually then support the organization in ways many people don't see, because that's just the nature of our work. We're going out and doing that, searching, looking for those investments, finding those opportunities, making sure that we are concentrating on the safety of our principal, the liquidity, so we have the funds as we need them. As Ms. Claren spends it, I need to make sure it's there. And then also, yield is the last thing, but that yield is a lot of the meaning to our work, because that's us helping to elevate other departments. And so that's what's important to us. And I think Mr. Bolt can react to that's we really do this work because it's a passion. And so thank you, commissioners. I'm going to leave it on a happy note. I sent you all the commissioners an article on inflation. I thought it was very good for you to read and see and kind of understand the different parts of impacts on the consumer, impacts on our city. And we're seeing it also right now, as I think I've gotten more Zillow feeds that prices are being reduced, and so we're seeing an impact in the housing market now too. And it's happening pretty quick, and it's hard because at 5.2% Fed rate, you're talking about an 8% mortgage rate. So that makes housing very expensive when many of us went and refinanced at 2.5%. And thinking about what somebody is going to have to pay on a monthly rate at 8%, that's hard. But I'm thankful for the work we do. It's a passion we have, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, do you have any questions for the city treasurer?
No, I just want to thank him for that report. It was very informative. The way you explained it, you broke everything down clearly, so it gave a different view from what we normally see, especially from what we see on the media. The clarity was just spot on. I just want to thank you. Thank you for that information. Thank you for the education.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Safe travels. If there's no other questions, that is received and filed. And that is the end of our agenda today. So at 8:48, we're adjourned. Thank you.
It is 9:15, and I will call the Community Development Committee meeting to order on Tuesday, November 15th, opening day of hunting season. Who's leaving here? No, don't raise your hand. Our first resolution is approving a fireworks discharge permit to Image SFX.
So moved. Support.
Good morning.
Morning. Okay, you can hear me. It's Trans-Siberian Orchestra, so, yeah, they got a lot. Y'all are welcome to come to the demo, like always.
When is the demo?
The demo I haven't set yet. I got to get your approval before I send them invoicing and all that, so generally it'll be, that's a Saturday, so it'll probably be about 10 o'clock, because their first show I think is at 11. But if you want, I can send that out.
Okay, great. If anybody's interested, reach out to Ted. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. Next, we have a resolution approving a fireworks discharge permit for the Grand Rapids Ballet Company for indoor special effects.
So moved. Support.
Pale in comparison.
One little poof from the cannon.
Pretty much.
That's it. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It carries.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Have a good week.
You too. Our third resolution is confirming special assessment nuisance roll number 8772.
So moved. Support.
Good morning.
Good morning. So the nuisance roll is comprised of unpaid charges that occurred from January 1st through June 30th. The commission sat as the board of review on October 4th. We had 11 appeals on 6 different properties. And the city assessor's office and city attorney's office reviewed the appeals with the department where the charges were originated. And upon review of these cases, it's confirmed that the city acted with full transparency, followed all appropriate procedures that are dictated by city ordinances. But we find sufficient cause to grant appeal number 2 at 839 Fairview Avenue, as the charge was for a rental certification and the property was not a rental. So that's the amount of $137.20. And therefore, I'm requesting that you confirm the special assessment nuisance roll in the amount of $366,723.57.
Thank you, colleagues. Any questions or comments? All right, all in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our fourth resolution of support approving submission of a coastal management program grant application.
So moved. Support.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. This represents a really good opportunity for us. For those of you who pay attention, and you'll see again when budget comes up, to pay for a plan like this without grant support would be extremely hard on the stormwater budget. And it's very rare to get planning grants come through. So this is a great opportunity for us to improve the current model we have on our network to make it more real life, as opposed to everything just being a node where what comes in is all you can put in. It accounts for backing up into the street, going to the next catch basin, where's it going to go next, and how's that going to influence other parts of the system. So it's real information as opposed to, what solely exists in the computer. And then taking that to make, to identify that'll work in control with our flow monitoring, or in conjunction with the flow monitoring we've got, which Mike is going to talk about a little bit. And then to put that into a plan and what needs to be addressed in the system. What should we be looking at for climate change? We've looked at it before, but we just need to keep going because it changes all the time. So it's a great chance for us to update everything we're doing and make sure we can address those problem spots identified, in addition to looking at how it's going to impact the underserved in our community in different spots.
Yeah, what this does is it ties into a lot of the work that ESD is doing right now out in the collection systems. That's kind of where the next opportunity is for us. These metering programs, these modeling programs, what that does is allow us to do predictive work. So we can get in there, look at our models, and hopefully get out in front, either to direct our cleaning from just that low level to, hey, we need to spend some money and do large projects. So it knits into a lot of the other things that we're doing.
Any questions or comments, colleagues? All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It carries. Thank you. Our fifth resolution is approving a memorandum of understanding with Fans of Valley Field.
Support.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. This agreement is really to formalize a partnership that has been in place now for almost a couple of years between the City Parks and Recreation Department and Fans of Valley Field. This agreement will really formalize the relationship and allow them to do some significant fundraising for the planned renovations of this important historic space in the west side of Grand Rapids. In addition to helping activate that space and provide some ancillary maintenance to support our crews as well.
Great. Any questions or comments?
I've seen all of their hoped-for plans for the site, and it's great. I know they had their first gala last week to raise money for the project, and so very excited to see this. I think it will be a well-worth investment for the city in that space. They've been activating it in a really remarkable way, and with a few things to work out around parking and things, we've had nominal complaints from the neighboring community, so I'm excited that this is moving forward.
That's great. Appreciate that.
Any other comments? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. And then the next resolution is entering into a professional service agreement with Rockford Construction Co. for construction management services.
So moved. Support.
Great. So this companion item really allows us to enter into an agreement with Rockford Construction. This is for pre-construction services of this important ball field, and really allows the Parks Department and the architectural design team to, I think, more intentionally look at the design selections and choices that we've got ahead of us, and to make good decisions based on solid construction estimating with this team.
Anything to add? All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It carries. Next, we have a resolution approving an encroachment agreement and a termination of encroachment agreement in Bond Avenue between Trowbridge Street and Newberry Street.
So moved. Support.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So this item relates to the construction of
You
Spectrum's.
said good morning, Commissioners.
Ah.
Did you all say good morning back?
Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank
Continue.
you. Thank you, Commissioner Lanier.
You're welcome.
I feel
saw
much
it in
better
your
now.
eyes.
Yeah.
I did. Good morning. Go ahead.
All right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
From the top. So this item relates to construction of Spectrum's Center for Technology and Innovation, of which construction is well underway. You may recall that Commission approved a construction agreement back in March related to some of the public utility improvements that were taking place within the right-of-way of Bond. And at that time, and as part of that item, we referenced that there would be a vacation item coming associated with this section of Bond because some of the improvements are being built into what is the existing right-of-way. However, that process has been delayed as Spectrum, now Corewell Health, is working with adjacent property owners to determine the final configuration and just exactly what the limits of that vacation will be. So in the interim, they've requested an encroachment agreement in the portion of Bond that is to be vacated and where construction is already permitted and activities are underway. Now, this should have been in place prior to our issuance of permits, and that's a similar pathway that we followed with other developments that utilize a portion of the right-of-way that will eventually be vacated. So we'd like to make that the case now as part of this item. The resolution before you also provides for termination of the encroachment agreement when it's no longer necessary, so once the vacation happens. So I anticipate bringing a future resolution before City Commission to consider that vacation for a portion of Bond between Trowbridge and Newberry at a future date.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I don't.
Okay.
Glad you could be able to work out a complicated thing. Thank you.
All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It carries. Our eighth resolution is approving a construction agreement and accepting public utilities easement for Spectrum Health Orthopedic Ambulatory Surgical Center.
Support. So this construction agreement relates to expansion of Spectrum's existing medical facilities in Grand Rapids Township. It's located south of 3 Mile, east of East Beltline Avenue. And the agreement and associated easement will facilitate construction of a public water main, and ask for your approval.
Questions, comments? All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It carries. Our ninth resolution is approving 2 consent of easement holders at 400 Market Avenue Southwest and 444 Wealthy Street Southwest.
Support. So DTE has been working with the state's Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EGLE, to investigate some historical subsurface contamination that is in the area of Market and Wealthy, caused by its predecessors related to a former manufactured gas plant that once existed in that area. You may recall that in August of 2021, we also worked with DTE on this matter related to our Market Sewer project and came before you with a cost share agreement associated with some of the contaminated soil and groundwater handling on that project. As part of meeting EGLE's requirements, DTE is executing and filing restrictive covenants on properties affected by this contamination, which includes these 2 before you, 400 Market and 444 Wealthy. They own both of those properties, but we are easement holders of utilities along those properties. And so, as such, the covenants require that we provide written consent that we're aware of and willing to comply with the restrictive covenant language. The proposed restrictions will not substantially alter our ability to get access to or maintain our utilities, but they do require that we notify DTE or whoever the property owner is at that time of our anticipated work in the area. Now, DTE is continuing to work with city staff on other affected properties in the area, so we will be coming back with future similar items, but would request your approval of this consent of easement holders today.
Questions or comments? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. Next, we have a resolution accepting a utility easement, authorizing a payment for $10,000, and approving a partial release of easement for replacement of Kingsbury Sanitary Lift Station.
Support. So this lift station is located in Walker, generally east of Alpine Avenue, north of I-96. The existing lift station and force main are nearing the end of their useful life, and also additional capacity is needed for anticipated development in the area.
We need to acquire this additional easement area so that the existing lift station can remain in place while we build the new one. And then once the new one is built, the old facilities can be abandoned and a portion of the current or existing easement can be removed and turned back over to the property owner. We've worked with the City of Walker and the property owner to reach agreement regarding design and the associated construction schedule, as well as the acquisition of this necessary easement. And staff is recommending that the city accept the property owner's counteroffer of $10,000, which was to cover their legal and administrative expenses they have incurred as part of this process. And that payment will come from the sewer system fund.
Questions, comments? All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It carries. Our last resolution is awarding a professional service agreement with Fishbeck for the first phase of the citywide facilities master plan.
So moved. Support. So we currently have almost 1.9 million square feet of occupied space spread across 51 buildings that support all the services that the city provides. The last master plan on our facilities was done in 1996, and it's time to upgrade that and update that to accurately reflect our needs today and going forward. So we issued a request for qualifications and received 4 responses for professional architectural services. Utilizing a qualifications-based selection process, the team selected Fishbeck as the highest qualified firm, and that award is before you today. So asking for your authorization of this first phase, which will consist of schematic design and programming services, basically getting us in a position to determine the scope of the rest of the project. So this first phase will take approximately 3 months, and ask for your approval of that not to exceed amount of $108,570. We'll then return to commission to authorize additional expenditures for the remaining phases, which are expected to take approximately 9 additional months. And the financing is coming from the Capital Improvement Fund Facilities Management line item.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, so there'll be several phases. Some of them I would imagine would evaluate environmental impact and like feasibility for upgrading HVAC and putting solar on roofs and all that kind of stuff. That's not this first phase, I assume.
Correct. Yeah, this is more of an inventory, gathering feedback, input from stakeholders, and kind of identifying what the baseline is, and then working forward with items like that.
And will Fishbeck continue to work in the other phases, or will each of those phases go out for bid?
They'll continue on. So this agreement will be expanded as those additional phases are identified and scope is determined.
Okay, great, thanks.
Questions, comments, Commissioner? All right. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Great. This concludes our meeting. Meeting adjourned at 9:31.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Committee of the Whole meeting on this November 15th, this beautiful snowy fall day. It's good to have everyone with us today. As we get started, Commissioners, I'd like to take a moment and welcome some guests that we have, not just today, but that will be with us over the next several months, and welcome this year's Mayor's Youth Council to their first City Commission meeting. Well, some of them, it's not their first one because they were with us last year, but a number of them, this is their first year as a member of the Mayor's Youth Council. So what I'd like to do as we get started this morning is invite Ms. Shannon Harris to come up, and then we'll invite the students to come up and introduce themselves and let us know where they go to school, what grade they're in, and what ward they live in. And then we'll have them join us up here for a group picture to kick off this beautiful day. Ms. Harris?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Commissioners, City Manager, City staff. So in 1999, this Mayor's Youth Council came before this body, 15 young people, 9th and 10th graders. 20 years plus later, we have today about 34 young people who are residents of Grand Rapids. They are in 9th through 12th grade. Like you said, Mayor, they are here with us for about a school year, learning about the functions of city government and being a voice to young people, or being a voice to elected officials on issues that affect young people. And I want to bring up, if you don't mind, Zachary Laraway, who is our program coordinator, to tell us a little bit about the programming that we have in store for this year. So, Zach.
Hello, Zach. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Shannon. Yeah, again, I would just like to introduce our group of Mayor's Youth Council for this year. They are a very well spread out group over across of all of our 3 wards. A lot of them are new members this year, so we are really looking forward to introducing them not only to what they can learn about from City Commission, but what they can learn about from our state and local governments. And then also we are really looking forward to our Kids Speak event, which will be held this April. So we would like to invite everybody here to please attend that as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. It's wonderful to have you here. I look forward to working with all of you and getting to know all of you throughout the course of the school year. I know I get to spend a lot of time with you, both in a large group and a small group, and then you'll get to experience a lot of what this body does. You'll get to meet with the commissioners that represent your ward, and then weigh in on important issues. So can we take this moment to have the members come up and introduce yourself? And tell us what grade you're in, school you go to, and then maybe form a line over here. And then it's a large group, which is great. And then us commissioners and myself will join you for a group picture before we kick off our action items. So Zach or Shannon, you want to organize that?
Yeah, we'll dismiss by row.
Okay, perfect.
He was the only one in the first row.
Hi, my name's Daniel.
Hold on. So you would like them lined up on the wall like speakers, Mayor?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like, I think if we can
Okay.
line up and then
Yeah.
just come on over here and start to form maybe 2 rows in the front. Thank you, City Manager. All right, go ahead.
My name is Daniel, and I go to Union High School, and I'm in the 9th grade.
Awesome. Great. Thank you,
And my
Daniel.
ward is the first ward.
Okay, great. We want to make sure all of you know your ward. And then why don't you come over here, Daniel? Kind of stand over by Commissioner Moody, and then we'll get up at the end and we'll take a group picture.
Hello, my name is Colin. I'm a senior at the Grand Rapids Public Museum High School, and I live in the first ward, west side, best side.
All right. We got some ward pride going on.
Hi, my name's Kira Nickerson. I'm from CA Frost in 11th grade, and I'm Ward 1.
Awesome. Thanks. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Claudia Dimstra. I'm a junior at City High School, and I'm in the first ward.
All right. Lots of first warders so far.
Good morning. My name is Sebastian. I am from the first ward. I go to Innovation Central. I am in 11th grade.
Nice. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Ian Perez. I am from the first ward, and I currently attend to Union High School. I'm a senior.
Great. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Akila. I'm in 9th grade at City High, and I'm in the first ward.
Nice.
Hello, my name's Lucy Gilbert. I go to WMAES, and I'm in 9th grade, and my ward is the first.
Great. Thanks. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Terrence Koch. I am a senior in Innovation Central High School, and I live in second ward.
Awesome. Nice to meet you, Terrence. All right. My second warders are like, yes.
Hi, I'm Lena Reeves. I'm a junior at City High School, and I'm in the second ward also.
Great. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Eden Cruz. I go to City. I'm a 9th grader, and I am in the second ward.
Nice. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Jana Kalambula. I'm a freshman at City High School, and I'm in the second ward.
Great. Thanks, Jana.
Hi, my name is Malia. I go to Grand Rapids Montessori. I'm a freshman and I live in the second ward.
Nice. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Jalen Monteroso. I go to UPrep. I'm a senior and I live in the second ward.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Sam Mastro. I go to City High School. I'm a sophomore and I'm in the second ward.
Yeah, and Sam's a neighbor of mine. Fulton Heights.
Hello, my name is Detroit Ruiz. I am in 11th grade at City High School and I am third ward.
Nice. Welcome.
About time.
Hi, my name is Marinez. I go to Union. I'm a freshman and I'm in the third ward.
Nice. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Sophie Van Jagger. I'm a junior at City and I'm in the third ward.
Nice.
Good morning. I am Ivan Shuri. I am a junior at Grand Rapids Public Museum High School, and I am from the third ward.
Awesome. And Ivan, maybe if you want to start a group on this side, and then Serena's here. She'll organize us for a picture afterwards.
Morning. My name is Terrell Daniels Jr. I go to Union High School, 11th grade, and I'm in third ward.
Awesome. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Julian Wilson and I'm a sophomore at City High Middle School and I'm in the third ward.
Hi, my name is Tanmay Dakshinamurthy and I'm a freshman at City High and I'm in the third ward.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Nkechinyede Okawasi. I'm a freshman at City High and I'm in the third ward.
Nice.
Hello, my name is Lyric Randall Yarbrough and I go to Ottawa and I'm in the third ward.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Demarion Streeter and I'm a freshman at Central, Innovation Central, and I'm in the third ward.
Keep coming, third ward people.
Hi, my name is Jemiah Dawkins. I go to Innovation Central and I'm in Ward 3 and I'm in 9th grade.
Hi, my name is DeAndrea Jones and I go to Grand River Preparatory and I'm in 9th grade and I'm in the third ward.
Good morning. My name is Erin Howard. I'm a sophomore at Southwest Community Campus Middle High and I live in the third ward.
Hi, my name is Malia Thompson. I'm a senior at CA Frost Environmental, and I'm in the third ward. Hi, my name's Kaylee Griffin. I'm a freshman at Ottawa Hills High School, and I'm in the third ward.
My name is Idarius Webb. I'm a senior at Ottawa, and I'm in third ward.
Hello, my name is Angelina Boyd. I'm a sophomore at City and I'm in the third ward.
Hi, my name is Zoe Winship. I'm a freshman at Museum High School, and I'm in the third ward.
Hi, my name is Amaya Williams. I go to Union High School. I'm a senior and I'm in the second ward.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everyone. I'm going to have Serena and Shannon kind of organize this great group. I'm going to ask my colleagues, you have to stand up or come down here and join us if you'd rather be out front. And as we get organized, I see a lot of our city leadership in the room, and many of you will have a chance to get to know them as well and meet with them and share your thoughts. I know we have some great work happening with the updating of the master plan, a lot of work happening in our police department, and so hopefully you'll get a chance to meet with our planning director and our police chief as well.
Come on, friend.
All right. Commissioners,
The camera can see you.
That's the theory. Oh,
sure.
All right.
I think.
Thank you. Okay. Get in here. Real tight. Should we have the students break up into your wards and then get a picture with your ward commissioners? So maybe start with maybe first ward step here, second ward come on over here, and third ward kind of come on over here. We just want to make sure everybody can be seen, and so we'll get pictures of you with your ward commissioners. So my first ward student, come on up.
Pleasure. Welcome.
All right.
Sammy, how you doing, son? Good.
First, second lady, come on over here. All right, so your third ward is going to back up a little bit. Kind of scooch a little bit out of the way if you're third ward. So Commissioner Woody, take your group a little bit that way. All right, I'm short, so I can do the front one. We got this. Scooch in. Awesome, thank you. All right, our second warders. So first ward can go ahead and sit down. Nice to meet you guys. Thank you for being on. Come on in here. All right. I'll be in the front, I'm short. I always tell people you don't have to be tall to be there. It's wonderful. Okay, now I want to do a requisite. Oh, all right. Here we go. That way. Perfect. How's that? Awesome. Good? All right. Good to see you. That's right. All right. Third ward. All right. Look at this group.
Yeah, this week that's interesting. I only heard one non-yes. West Michigan Environmental Science.
Let's maybe a few of you can kind of come this way. Shall we?
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, really? Maybe.
You know, I'm like confused. Who's all the sad little banana dolls?
That's good for one thing and one thing.
All right, thank you. What a great way to start our morning. Really enjoy having you here, and I look forward to working with all of you. All right, Commissioners, so let's move on then to our action items that are before us today. We have a number of items, and then we do have just a brief update. It's on water and sewer rates, so just make sure you have that topic accurate. I know we also got an email from our Pay It, so hopefully that went out to all of our users. And then on the agenda, we initially had put a slot for any follow-up discussion about our City Commission workshop. So this was if we ran out of time last week, but since we covered everything at the workshop, I don't believe we have any additional information to share. Is that right, City Manager?
That's correct.
Okay. But we do have 2 executive sessions today for appointed official reviews. So we have our city manager at 1 o'clock, our city clerk at 2. Those are going to be down in room 601. So at the end Before we get to the presentation on the water rates, I'll ask for a motion to go into executive session. And then we do have public safety today at 3, and then we're back together here in our chambers tonight at 7. So with that, we'll get started with the first item. There's a resolution approving the request from Caffeine Inc. for a Class C redevelopment liquor license, and this is located at 637 Michigan Street Northeast. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioners, any questions or comments? I think we're all familiar with this location and this business. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution approving compensation and fringe benefit changes for non-rep employees that are currently enrolled in the 401A Officers Option Defined Contribution Plan. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. I believe we have our HR director. Is she here? No. Ken, you want to speak to this? I'll give commissioners, this is a cleanup after our labor negotiations. When we converted over and made changes to our pension years ago, there's a small group, I believe 3 or 4 employees that are in this 401A option. So this gets them up to where we need to be for our recent contract negotiations.
I think you summarized it well, Mayor.
Yeah, that's
All right.
I think we're ready to call a question.
I have nothing to add unless you have any questions.
Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Actually, 3 people in it.
Oh, are there 3? Thank you. All right. Okay. Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right. Next is a resolution amending the membership of our Vital Streets Oversight Commission. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right. Moved and supported. We have our engineer here, city engineer, Mr. Berkman. Tell us about this, although we've talked about it for months and months and months. So.
We have, yes. Good morning, Mayor, City Commission, City Managers. Thank you. So the Vital Streets Oversight Commission was originally established back in 2014 to consist of 25 members serving 3-year terms. The VSOC is intended to make recommendations in terms of our investment strategies with the Vital Streets funding that comes into place and report on those achievements and outcomes, as well as advise on our asset management strategies. As you are aware, there are currently 11 vacancies of the 25-member body, and staff were asked to explore reducing its size to make it more manageable and consistent with other city boards and commissions. So we've come before the Committee on Appointments on a few occasions to discuss a pathway forward and have developed a plan through the Vital Streets Oversight Commission, and they've provided a recommendation that is before you today. As part of that process, we did reach out to all VSOC members, as well as those organizations that were listed that do not have a current appointment, just to collect their input and feedback. But at the October 17th VSOC meeting, they did approve a recommendation that's coming before you now in 2 parts. The first is to reduce the size from 25 to 13. The 13 will consist of 1 appointee from each city commissioner and the mayor, and the other 6 would be selected from a list of designated entities. And so that's part 2 of the recommendation, that that list be updated and maintained by the VSOC body. The original commission resolution creating the VSOC designated that 1 member would be appointed from each of 18 listed organizations. And that's also listed in the VSOC charter. And from time to time, it may be necessary to amend that list. And so we'd like to put that under the purview of the VSOC. And as an example, the Sustainable Streets Task Force has now dissolved. And so that was one of the 18. Or the Parking Commission is now the Mobile GR Commission. So as it's necessary to make edits, we'd like to be able to do that. And any adjustments would be handled as part of the VSOC bylaws, requiring a 2/3 vote of that body. And the purpose of that list would be twofold. 1, that provides the lists from which appointees would be selected. And then part 2 is that would identify those entities with which we will provide regular updates and receive their feedback and input as part of the work that the VSOC does. And then finally, all appointees will, of course, continue to be approved by City Commission per the appointments process in place. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you. I'm glad to see this come forward. I think when it was created back in 2014, there was a lot of work to be done by this body. But now that we're, my goodness, 8 years into the process, there's a lot of work that's been accomplished, and the role of this body has changed because of that. And so I think this is a good step forward and makes a lot of sense. So thank you for your work on that. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Mayor, thank you. I'll just add my thanks to Mr. Berkman. I think on our committee of appointments, we've been not only working to fill the appointments, but to look at the structural improvements that we could add, ask why do certain body, has the time frame, evaporated? We're living in a very different world from 2014. And so, I know you're also committed to staying in contact with individuals who might not actually end up being on the board, but are trusted parties. And I think we have done a lot with our community engagement as a city, and that's a further reflection that we'll continue to stay connected to all the interested parties.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for your work on the Appointments Committee. All right, with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution approving the CAA Amphitheater mission statement. So, Commissioners, can I get a motion for this? All right, moved and supported. So Commissioners, when the CAA took on conversations about the amphitheater, one of the requests was for them to look at their mission statement and make sure that it encompassed some of the projects they want to do in the future. So Ms. Behrens, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As you noted, in March, the CAA was approved to exercise their option to purchase the 201 Market Avenue corridor for riverfront redevelopment. And as part of that approval, there was a request that the CAA adopt a facility-specific mission statement. It requires the approval of both the city, the county, and the CAA board. Both the county and the CAA board have already approved the mission statement that is before you today.
Awesome. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Pretty clear cut.
Can somebody just read it aloud so everybody can hear it?
Sure.
Happy to do so. To encourage economic development within the West Michigan region, create jobs, and provide a facility for entertainment, enjoyment, and benefit of the residents in an economical manner with a priority for facility fiscal responsibility through the delivery of events that are primarily entertainment related with a secondary emphasis on artistic and community activities and public events.
Thank you. City Manager?
Yeah, I'll just add that this is consistent with the mission statements of the other venues that the CAA operates, similar to the Van Andel as well as DeVos Place. So each facility has to have a defined mission.
All right. Any questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next is a resolution establishing the Lofts on Grove Neighborhood Enterprise Zone at 1359 and 1329 Plainfield Avenue Northeast. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. We have our Economic Development Director, Mr. Gracia, here to tell us about this item, although we have had a public hearing, and I know we're familiar with the project, and I know our Second Ward Commissioners have been actively engaged as well.
Yeah, so just a quick summary. Again, it's a mixed-use four-story building with ground floor retail space and 110 market units, and a total project cost of $24.4 million. Again, it would take down a building, but also has a inclusion plan commitment of $2.6 million overall for the project.
Yeah, great. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
I'd say all you city middle and high school students will get to drive by this every day on your way to school. So you'll get to see a four-story building built on one of our corridors, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, this is exciting. I know many of us know the history of this corridor and the excitement years ago when we thought there'd be some pretty significant development and investment on the corridor, and then that ended up stalling out. And a lot of these properties have sat vacant and underutilized for years now. And that corridor, as it's moved forward with North Corridor and some of the other work the business district has been doing, I know that this is a welcomed project and people are really excited about it. So, any additional questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Next, that will take us to a resolution approving a brownfield plan amendment for 280 Ann redevelopment project. This is located at 280 Ann Street Northwest. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Support.
All right, moved and supported. This is another project over there in the Second Ward on an asphalt parking lot, largely, right? A portion of it is?
That's right, yeah. So this is proposes a construction of a new four-story mixed-use building, basically on a vacant parking lot, 44 new units, total cost of $6.5 million. And again, this project is also committed through its inclusion plan a target of $1.6 million for overall construction costs.
Great. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioner Isasi?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Gracia. For this, I know when we heard about this at Brownfield, and then we obviously met about this at City Commission, but have they finalized, or is the commercial tenant that they were going to have finalized in this spot?
I'm not aware that it
Okay.
is for sure.
All right, thank you.
I can follow up, though.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Well, I think it's important to note, we had a lot of people comment on this at our Commission Night Out meeting in the Third Ward, and the units are priced at 60 and 80% AMI, which is not, as affordable as some people would want, but it is more affordable than market rate. And so I just want to, we do save these Brownfield awards and the NEZs for advancing that affordability. And I think that even though the community that was at our Commission Night Out, it wasn't meeting their expectations for that, it does meet our city's goal for adding supply at those two levels, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for putting that. I know, sometimes we use the acronyms AMI, and it's not really clear what that means. And what we know about housing is that we have housing needs across the entire spectrum, including what often is referred to as this missing middle. So this, 50, 60 AMI, all the way up to 100% AMI. And those are just as important because we know there's an interconnection between all types of housing because a lot of it is driven by supply and demand. So we need housing across the spectrum, all the way from low income, supportive housing, transitional housing, all the way up to market rate. And we need to support those projects throughout that spectrum. So thank you for bringing that up.
Mayor, if I may also add, and I think from that hearing, it was important to note that when we decide to use the Brownfield tool, it's because the sites that are being considered are not ready for development immediately without significant investment in remediation, which adds to the developer costs. And so the Brownfield fund helps us to alleviate some of those costs, and we are eventually reimbursed. The developer is being reimbursed by it, but it helps us to make a site more ready for development than normally they would have an opportunity to do.
Yeah, thank you for pointing out.
Yeah, and we still have our Brownfield revolving loan fund, which primarily goes to funding gaps for affordable projects as well. So I think that eventually people will see all of those pictures together, but I think that they do work together, and this is an example of that.
An important point, Commissioner, as you'll see this evening on those public hearings, how these projects eventually help pay out for closing gaps in projects that we'll talk about in public hearings this evening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both. And City Manager, I appreciate you saying that. I know many of us say this all the time. It's a lot more expensive to build downtown on a brownfield than a greenfield out in the middle of, a big field. It's a lot more expensive, or a golf course. And so we want to make sure that we are supporting the development of these brownfield sites. So, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, Commissioners, next is a resolution that's a companion item. This is a resolution establishing the 280 Ann LLC Neighborhood Enterprise Zone at 280 Ann Street Northwest. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. Mr. Gracia, anything else to add?
Nope, same project, just a different program to support the housing units.
All right, great. Commissioners, any additional questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, Commissioners, next that will take us to a resolution providing for the publication of an ordinance amending Chapter 11 under purchases, contracts, and sales of the city code to increase various purchasing process dollar thresholds. Again, this is just the publication. It will come back before us in December for an actual vote. So can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. We have our CFO here today to tell us about this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is really a housekeeping item. Last time we've examined our purchasing thresholds, it's been, I believe I noted in the item, 32 years. So We've had a lot of lessons learned during the pandemic. And if you've been listening to fiscal committee, we've talked a lot about supply chain issues, things like that, availability of goods. And so we looked inward as far as what our bid process is when we are purchasing things that are already budgeted. Are the efficiencies we could pick up? So we found vendors, unable to hold pricing and things like that. So really what we're doing is just practically trying to find a way to improve our purchasing process. So we set the thresholds against other communities as benchmarks. Just to name a few, for the sealed bids, we did the state of Michigan, Kent County, the city of Kalamazoo, people that do our similar volume of purchases. And same with our administrative function, that level of authority. Kent County is up at 250,000, whereas like the city of Kalamazoo is around 100,000. I believe we looked at Ann Arbor, that's 75,000. So seeing where we fall in that array of other communities. So this change would set the city manager's approval of contracts. It was previously $10,000. We're going to lift that to $100,000. As for the delegated authority, that would be for roles like the assistant city manager, deputy city manager. That's lifted from $2,500 to $10,000. We're going to leave the department manager's level right where it is at 2,500, and then as far as the sealed bid process, which you'll see the bid list come through fiscal committee, instead of having that threshold at $10,000, we're going to lift that to $50,000. And again, it's probably long overdue because it's been 30 years. So if you do have any questions, though, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks. And Molly, just to be clear, the process on our end, we'll still see the list. It'll still come before us, and all of that is still public. And then for signatures of contracts, that still ultimately comes to me for final approval.
Right. And by charter, anything over $500 requires competition. So we don't lose that element. It's really that sealed bid process of it can be up to 6 weeks before we're able to deliver an RFP and thing. And for something that's $12,000 and it's already budgeted for, if the purchasing buyer can go ahead, verify the bids the department obtains, they verify it with purchasing, and before it even get to the city manager's desk for signature, it would go through the legal department as well. So we do still have those checks and balances in place. It's just trying to be realistic in the environment we're in.
So thank you. That's helpful. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, Commissioners, before we get to our one briefing, I'd like to call the question to go into executive session. This would be today at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in room 601 to meet with our city clerk and our city manager. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported, and this is a voice call, so I'll start down here with Commissioner Moody.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
I'll be there.
All right, Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Commissioner Repart?
Yes.
Commissioner Isasi?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. All right, so I will see you down there at 1 o'clock today. And so now we will switch over to our one briefing that we have before us today. Commissioners, this is a briefing and update that we get every single year about our water and sewer system and our rate study. And so with that, I'll turn it, City Manager, anything to say as we open up this item?
Real briefly, Mayor, I want to thank Janessa for her work and her team for making sure they have good stewardship of the water system, and they're being very mindful of some of the inflationary costs, and I'm pleased to hear the rates that are bringing forth on average are well below the cost of inflation, and so they've done a good job, and I'm looking forward to hearing the report.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Good morning. So this is the introduction of the 46th annual preliminary rate study, and this does initiate that 20-day public comment period as well. This will be for rates that are in effect also January 1 of 2023, so this upcoming January. So we always start our presentation with just a very quick overview of those building blocks that go into the revenue requirement. So that first row are the expense inputs that go in. So you have your operations and maintenance expense, you have assets that go into service, so depreciation and ROI on those, as well as other items such as the combined sewer overflow debt. That is a Grand Rapids only specific item, and any other agreements that we may have, like a payback agreement. In that middle row, you have your revenue inputs, and that includes other operating revenue like permits and inspection fees that go back into the rate study to help temper those rate increases each year. In addition, we also have the city and customer community circuit breaker. That is really the fancy term for our mechanism on how we address affordability within the study. So we utilize that penalty revenue that we collect on behalf of retail partners, and we put that back into the study to help temper those rates for all of our retail partners down to that system average as well. And then finally, you have your billed volume, which is the revenue expectation in the rate study. So that is what the rate study can calculate with current rates and current consumption on what it expects to collect. Last year, so we put together a really great video on the rate study explanation. We went through and we showed 1 minute of it in this meeting a year ago as well, because it's an 8-minute video, but it was really well received. I've heard a lot of great feedback from our community members as well, who have been able to review this and really kind of shed light on the whole elaborate process. But this year, our city staff got together trying to brainstorm how we can make this even more transparent, and so we translated it to Spanish so we could meet even more of our customers in their realm of space that will help even increase transparency of this process. So it was a really a full year-long process, and it took a lot of work on the partnership of our team to do. So I do want to call out a couple people, one being my analyst here in the crowd in the blue jacket, Ty Verbrugge, who worked really hard on this, Elisa Soto, who is our utility business office business manager, who translated the script and is the voice of this video, and then Travis Scott, who's one of our communications team members here at the city too. That video is available right now live on the same website that the original video in English is still available, and that is that you can also go to grandrapidsmi.gov and type in water sewer rate study. I'm sorry, I missed that.
About how long is the video?
Oh, I think it's still about 8 minutes long, so it's unfortunately too long to show here, but it's a great opportunity. Again, I had a lot of good feedback, and I do think it really helps break down this process. So available in Spanish if that's needed as well. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware. So going into this year's study, so this graph shows us the 15-year historical rate changes. So on the water system side over there on the left, with this study, we are recommending a 5.68% overall system average increase. You can see on that bottom shaded bar that the 15-year historical rate average was 2.04% for the water side, so a little above average on that side. On the sewer side, on the right side, the recommended rate increase is 1.07%, with that overall 15-year average at 4.40%, so a little below average on that side too. It's important too to note, again, this year we're talking about historical inflationary impacts again within the study, with the annual inflation ending in September of this year at 8.2% again. So I know this was an impact as well for last year's study, but important thing to note, both systems are coming in well below that inflationary impact. So some of the major drivers on the water side, asset management was by far the biggest driver this year for the water study. We layered in $34.2 million of assets into service. So that includes water mains, some significant work on our Livingston and Wilson pump stations, as well as some other pump stations of ours, as well as some Lake Michigan filtration plant investments. And in addition, our percentage for the ROI calculation is also up due to the interest rate environment that we're looking at as well. So assets that went into service and investments within the system as a whole accounted for about 3.77% of that overall 5.68. The next factor is the revenue credits and integrated system connection fee credits. Both permits and inspections were down this year over last year, and that is largely due to supply chain and slowdowns in the construction industry that we saw. So that resulted in a little less revenue this year that we were able to put back into the study to help temper those rates. So that did have an upward pressure. The revenue expectations, so the 3-year water bill value was also down 1.42%, which resulted in that 0.56% upward pressure. And on the O&M side, this is actually a really great story this year for the water system. We were able to really hold expenses pretty level, even with high inflationary impacts that we're seeing. So we do have 2 known cost adjustments built into this study, one being on personnel services, and that's regarding the union wage increases that we just passed this fall. And then also some additional chemical pricing increases that we're seeing that are 100% driven from inflation and supply chain issues. So both of those combined resulted in a 0.47% upward pressure. Lastly, the rate study calculated a little less of that penalty revenue to apply in this year's study, and really that just goes back to those retail partners to help bring them all in line with the system average. So because there was a little less calculated to apply back in, that did also result in a little bit of an upward pressure. So again, that overall system increase for the water system was 5.68%. On the sewer side, asset management was also the biggest driver here as well. So we layered in $13.3 million of assets into service this year. That included sewer mains, as well as that first phase of the Market Avenue sewer relocation project downtown here, and then also some investments at the wastewater resource recovery facility. In addition, that ROI percentage is also up on the sewer side as well. So that accounted for 1.79% rate increase. On the O&M side, we did have some GVRBA contract work related to hauling and landfill costs that were up this year, as well as consumers' energy, and again, that same chemical pricing inflationary impact on the sewer side as well. That accounted for 1.45%. Regarding the revenue expectation, again, the 3-year sewer build volume is also down 0.89%, so that did also have an upward pressure. And then the study also calculated a little less of that penalty revenue to apply back for our retail partners again, too. On the sewer side, though, we did have some factors that helped temper rates this year, one of which is that our surcharge revenue was up, and that's largely due to increased concentration in industrial waste users this year. And then we also did receive some green gas revenue from the digester that we were able to finally put back into the study and help reduce those rates. So that accounted for actually a 2.02% rate reduction. Lastly, the combined sewer overflow debt service requirement, that is that annual debt service that we pay on that CSO debt. As that continues to roll off, it gets less and less each year. So that also resulted in a 0.96% reduction in those overall system averages too, resulting in that overall system average of 1.07% for sewer. So now breaking down kind of those factors a little bit more detail. So with build volume, in 2010, the study started taking into account that 3-year build volume average. That's just to help smooth out those major peaks and valley years so that we don't have a high reactionary rate impact in the study based on weather. So one thing that you'll want to know is on both sides of the graph, the black line represents that 3-year average, and then the blue on the left side and the green on the right will be the year-to-year change. So on the water side over there on the left, the 2022 water volume was down 2.48% over 2021, and that was largely due to wet weather conditions during peak irrigation times. So not necessarily that 2022 was wet overall compared to 21. It was just those rain events took place during times where you'd have high irrigation. Or you might water your lawn, for example. So that did result in a little bit of a build volume decrease. So, and again, that it resulted in that 3-year average down 1.42%. On the sewer side, the 2022 sewer volume is actually up 4.13% over 2021. However, and that is largely due to pandemic restrictions lifting. We'll look at that in a little bit more detail in the next 2 slides. However, though, the 3-year average is down 0.89% because if you look at that green bar, 2019 outpaced 2022. So that old 3-year average was a little bit higher than this year's 3-year average built into the study. One thing I do like to note here on this graph too, you'll notice that there's a lot less variation in that sewer graph. That's because sewer is capped, their consumption is capped every year at the winter water average, quarterly average. So that sewer cap that we already employ into the sewer system users already helps smooth out some of that variation too. So this graph is just a breakdown of our partner communities and what their bill volume has been for the last several years. You'll notice on the water graph that there's a lot of high variability. You have some major swings, with 2020 being down 7.89% and then 21 up 9.81. And then again this year down 2.48. A lot of that is largely due to those COVID impacts that we saw the last couple of years, as well as wet weather. On the sewer graph, it is important to note that we're coming off of 2 years of consecutive bill volume decreases, and then seeing that rebound in this study with fiscal year 22 being up 4.13%. Again, that was largely due to seeing those pandemic restrictions lift. You can see that just an example in Caledonia Township. You'll see the major swing upwards. They were greatly impacted in the last 2 studies with the partial close down of Davenport, for example. Another thing that we talked about last year, but I do think is important to note, is that ourselves as well as our partners have all been investing in a sewer main lining program, and that will reduce infiltration, which will reduce bill volume. So we may be starting to normalize and come into more of a normal that we'll see with bill volume going forward now that we're investing in those programs as well. So again, asset management was our biggest factor in both studies this year. So I did include this information, and I won't go into too much detail on it, but this is the breakdown of what asset additions went into service for both systems. One thing to note is that anything that's highlighted in gray, it denotes that it's a shared asset. We refer to it as zone gated, but really what that means is we've done a study to determine who's actually using that billed flow, for example, through that water main. So we assess the cost of that out to each partner that is responsible for their piece of it as well. So you can see on the left side that the overall system for water added $34.2 million, with $4.7 million of that being at the Lake Michigan filtration plant. So that's what we consider integrated, and it's spread across all of our users. $29.5 million went into the non-integrated system, and again, many of which were shared. So it might be physically located in Grand Rapids, for an example, but it's used by multiple partners. So that cost would have been divided equally based on that zone gating share. On the sewer side, you can see that we did $13.3 million of asset additions. Again, $1.6 million were done at the WRF, and the other $11.7 million were done in our non-integrated system, between Grand Rapids and Cascade, and again, split among partners as well. The circuit breaker calculation. So again, this is that mechanism in the study where we address affordability. So this year's study calculated $913,000 available to assist with next year's city and customer community circuit breaker. So that is what will be available to go back in to help temper those rates to the overall system average for our retail partners. In addition, we also utilized 12.5% of that penalty revenue to fund our individual circuit breaker, which is our individual utility bill assistance program. So for next calendar year, there will be $130,446 available, again, to support that program. And we were also able to put that $80,000 back into the program as well for additional supplemental funding. One important thing I do want to highlight here too is that currently, as of today, we still have $129,000 available for this year's individual circuit breaker. So that utility bill assistance program that's available to help and assist any of our users that need some assistance all the way through December 31 too. So this slide shows us the overall rate impact by community. So again, that overall system average on the water side is 5.68%, and the overall system average on the sewer side is 1.07%, but it does impact every community differently based on inputs that impact their community, bill volume, what assets went into service within their community, et cetera. One thing I did want to point out here is that you'll notice that the city of Walker did do a contribution. So every partner of ours is able to contribute money to help buy down rates. So if there's funding available for ARPA or other funding that's left over from a project, they are able to buy down rates to help smooth rate impacts for their members as well. Each year we typically have a few communities that reach out to discuss it, but we did know ahead of time that Walker wanted to utilize that. So we were able to build that this year into the prelim study as well, which helped get their rate to 1.5% on that water side. So what does this mean for our Grand Rapids users? So the average Grand Rapids consumer will see a $7.98 increase for overall per quarter for water and sewer services. So what that results in is a $24.96 more for water annually, and $6.96 more for sewer annually. So that combines to about $31.92 more per year for the average consumer of water and sewer services here. So we always kind of end with just where we're at in the process here. So last week on the 10th, we made the rate study available and kicked off that 30-day partner review period for our UAB members, our advisory board members. Today, November 15th, Deer Hunting Day. I'm here kicking off that 20-day public comment period, as well as just the initiation and introduction of these rates. I do want to say that public comment can be given tonight at commission, but it can also be received through info@grcity.us. I think that's important as well. And then this Thursday, November 17th, I will be giving the same presentation to our utility advisory board. That meeting is at 8:30 in the morning at our wastewater resource recovery facility as well. And then I'll spend the next couple of weeks talking with our advisory board members and meeting to see if they have any questions or follow-ups or if they do want to make a contribution. And then I will be back on December 13th requesting approval of the rates by resolution. So happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? We'll start down here with Commissioner Isasi and then go to Commissioner Repart, Commissioner Lanier, and then I'll turn over here.
Thanks for the presentation. I just wanted to clarify one thing that was said on slide 11, where you said the other non-op revenue, that can also go to the individual program or to the retail program, or both?
Yep, that goes to directly to the individual program to fund that.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying.
Great, thanks. Commissioner?
My question's on the same page. These percentages, 87.5 and 12.5 for the breakdown for the circuit breaker calculation. Can you just explain, or somebody, why we picked those two numbers?
That's a good question. That was done back in 2006, I think. That was addressed with the Utility Advisory Board, I think, on just what the assessment at that time was to fund those programs. I can say that we've had sufficient funding, fortunately, for both, and typically there is funds left over in both studies that we can put back into the study to help with next year, too.
I guess that's ultimately was my question, is do we have enough to fund, particularly the individual circuit breaker?
I used to do the rate study, so I once talked to Eric DeLong about that because he's the godfather of the water sewer area. With that, I believe the utility advisory board at the time were going for $1 target. So that's how I'm like, what do these percentages mean? But they, at the time, and I'm trying to remember what the level was back then, but it's obviously since grown as we expanded the system. So it's a good deal now, but that's definitely something that the utility advisory board could address if the commission did want us to examine that.
Okay, great, thank you.
And we should add, Molly, I don't know if you want to add to this. So the utility advisory board, they obviously still meet regularly, and a lot of these items are discussed among that body.
Sure.
But I do want to clarify, though, that what I heard is both commercially as well as individually, there still typically is leftover revenue from the circuit breaker funding.
Yep,
so
correct.
even if there were to be an adjustment individually, there may not necessarily be more utilization of it.
Exactly, yep.
Yeah.
In the last historical years that I've been part of this organization, so it's coming up to 8 actually, we've always had funding available left over for both programs to help. So we haven't yet had any occurrence where we need additional funding.
Good. Commissioner Lanier?
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. My question is actually on the same slide as well. Commissioner Repart and I sit on the Kent County Community Action Board as well. And at our last meeting, we were talking about the need for the contract between the city and the KCCA to be renewed, because our goal there is to spend it. Because,
yeah, absolutely.
We frequently hear about the needs in the community and so many people needing support, utility support. And so we were trying to ask the question about what can we do differently in order to spend those dollars every single year. And so I'm curious to know, are you all having some conversations about renewing that contract, and what is it that we can do on this end to make sure that there are provisions in place so that the dollars can get spent.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we're having those same conversations over there, but I'm just curious to hear kind of the city's version
Yeah,
of that
absolutely.
plan.
I think Samaria Giffel, our Administrative Services Officer for the Utility Business Office, plans to give a update at KCCA for the this Thursday meeting as well. So I'm sure that she is working actively with their board as well to work through that contract renewal also. I think the last couple of years have been such a unique process. There's been so much funding available to assist individuals that we've had historic low usage of our individual circuit breaker. But that's a great question. We make sure that we get our funding back to KCCA as soon as it's requested so that that way they have adequate funding to assist users. But as far as I'm understanding though, we have also tried to generate on our end how we can get this information out to our users even more. So I know that Ms. Giffel also has worked very diligently to put that message on our bill inserts and to plug this. We've also discussed during these commission meetings to have maybe a running like a ticker tape that shows you this message that says, hey, contact Kent County Community Action at this number if you need utility bill assistance. So we've been working on those types of things as well, just to expand knowledge base of this program. But the funding is available and it's ready for use, so.
Yeah, thank you for that, and I appreciate hearing the interest in increased marketing that the program exists.
We talk about at KCCA a lot too.
Yeah, exactly. We're having those same conversations there as well. So I think that was it. Well, no, there was another slide that, as you were speaking, I didn't quite understand, but I think I figured it out. If not, I'll reach out.
Absolutely, perfect. Please
Thank
do.
you.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any additional questions or comments? All right, well, thank you for the presentation, really appreciate it. Appreciate your work and the work of your entire team. City Manager, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple of comments based on the questions on the same slide from the right side of the room. The popular slide. What we'll do when we bring the item back in December, we'll make sure that we get more information about some of the efforts that we are doing to help promote the utilization with KCCA. And I think what I'd like to also ask the staff to do is, I recall last year, the video, we played a couple of minutes in English. And so I think it would be appropriate when we come back to play a couple of minutes in Spanish. And that too, we're talking about promoting awareness and utilization, may also help us in that communication. And the last comment I'd like to make is on a different slide, and I want to just point out collectively, both regionally as well as in the city of Grand Rapids, slide 8 and 9 on the billed water volume. And I think it's pretty remarkable that our FY22 volume level, both as a city and as a community, is below the FY18 level in terms of conservation, both on the water and sewer. And so there could be lots of reasons for explanation, but the facts are, unlike other communities that I've seen, particularly in the southern parts of the state where water utilization is much higher and they have droughts and restrictions, that we've been able to either maintain or reduce it, and I would like to contribute some of it to just greater awareness, but I'll be interested in more learning, some of the perhaps suggested causes of our sustainability in this effort.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, City Manager. All right, Commissioners, with that, we will close this Committee of the Whole. Again, I'll see you down in room 601 at 1 o'clock for executive session, back in here at 3 o'clock for public safety, and then back in here tonight at 7 for our commission meeting. All right.
Doing a follow-up discussion?
No, that was just a placeholder in case we didn't get through all the material last week, but we got through all the materials, so we're good.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Commissioners.